Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Holly Folger. I've started a nonprofit called True Beauty Discovery, and you're joining us now for this lecture. Hey, Anna, how
Hi.
are you? Welcome, girl.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to spend my Saturday morning with you.
Oh, well, we are thrilled. We're just thrilled. I don't know if a lot of people know, but you graduated with your first degree in engineering. Like,
Yeah,
that's really cool. Tell
thank you
us
so much.
about that experience and how you ended up going to film school after that.
Yes, so I studied at Western Michigan University to get my undergrad in mechanical engineering. I focused in biomed. I graduated in 2019, so I've already been out of that degree for a little bit over a year. And I initially went into engineering just because fresh out of high school, I always excelled in math and science. I had a dad who was an engineer, my older sister was an engineer, and it just seemed like a really good path to take. There was a lot of opportunity in engineering, as we all know, and I liked a little bit of the design, and I'd always had interest in the medical field, but I wasn't very good with needles or anything in the hospital. So I was like, this is a way that I could still be a part of the medical field, but be behind the scenes. So I studied engineering, like I said, at Western Michigan, and it was an incredible program. I made the most amazing friends. And throughout my college career, I always had interests also outside of engineering, even though a lot of engineers will sometimes spend time doing clubs or being a part of associations that are still weaved into the engineering major. I found myself in a cappella groups, film clubs. I taught Zumba at our rec center. I was a substitute teacher for K through fifth grade. I had very weird interests that always were a little bit more outside of the box. And doing this, in all honesty, brought me this really, really well-rounded view. And from an interview perspective, anytime I walked into a job, they always were so surprised that I was doing things that weren't engineering. So I had been doing film for a long time leading up to even going to college. It was always one of those side passions. I would make videos of our family vacations. I'd make music videos with my siblings. So when I was graduating college, I kind of had a little bit of an epiphany that I was like, do I want to do engineering for forever? Or, while I have this like young, opportunistic life ahead of me, can I take this chance and apply to school? And so that's kind of what sparked going to film school. I applied to one graduate school, which was Loyola Marymount University. And then I also accepted one job. And I said to myself, if I get into grad school, it's meant to be. If I don't, then I have this job that I really love with people that I love at a company that I enjoy. And it seemed just like it could be a really great chance for me to try something new.
Did you ever question completely changing your path? Like,
Um, that's a great question. I thought about it, and when I was in engineering, I think everybody kind of becomes skeptical, but I never thought about completely changing my path. Something that's always really important to remember too is once you get a degree, once you get an education, it's not like that ever goes away. It's not like what you've learned or any of the information that you have really disappears. Now, you might have to refresh yourself on some of the stuff that you've learned, but I'll always have those core engineering foundation, and it's incredible to have something like that to build upon with my other interests. So when I started film school, I was so surprised that, sometimes these fundamentals from engineering, even ways that I learned problem solving, strategy, looking at a situation and figuring out how can I make this the most efficient, most streamlined, which was concepts from my engineering field, I was able to just build my film degree on top of that foundation I already had. So I definitely was throughout college. I think everybody in an undergrad, I mean, just from my perspective, a lot of my friends changed majors through college, and there's nothing wrong with changing majors in college. I knew I wanted engineering, and it was a really good option for me to have that as my core and then to build upon that once I.
that's so amazing to me. I mean, it's just amazing that you've done all these different things and that it's kind of this thing where you don't have to stick to one thing. You don't have to be, I know that a lot of, I went through this with my kids when they were looking at colleges and stuff, it's like, oh, I have to figure out what I'm going to do or what I'm going to be and it's so not that. So were you nervous about your new adventure? I mean, were you nervous that you might not have the same experience in film that others did, or just maybe fitting in after moving across the country?
Yeah, the imposter syndrome of that. I remember the first day of school coming in when we had orientation, and I walk into this room with all of these incredible, like you can just tell that everybody knew what they were doing. And I felt like I had no idea what I was doing. Like I didn't know why I got invited here. I mean, LMU is one of the top 10 programs in the country for film. So we're sitting there and everybody's talking about their favorite directors. And I'm like, I really love the TV show New Girl. Like I had no idea, like I didn't really have a really strong basis for the film industry. I just knew that I liked to make films. And it was really, really interesting. But as I was there, I was definitely nervous, but it all kind of went away when I wasn't so afraid to just be a parent that I didn't know what I was doing. And something that is so important is that when you come to school, the point of coming to school is to learn. If you came in knowing all the information, you should be the professor. Like it's the whole point of being there is to gain the education, to gain the experience, to meet people, to have those conversations, and to grow as an individual. So the second I started being more blunt, that I was like, I don't know what this terminology means. I don't know how a set is run. I don't know what's going on. I can tell you, like, I can build the set for you if you want me to, because I have an engineering degree, but I can't, I don't know how everything works. It was amazing how many people stepped up and wanted to teach me and wanted to give me insight. What professors wanted to meet with me after class to explain things that I didn't know yet. Ask the questions. And that's my number one sense of advice is always ask the question. Always, ask what you don't understand, because you're better off to learn it now and just, let down the ego and let people know that you're confused than to continue your life going, never actually knowing what the truth is.
Is there one single motivator that really pushed you or pushes you consistently to go after what you want career-wise? Like what's that thing inside you?
In all honesty, I think it's two things. Number one is my family, my friends, my relationship, the support system that I've grown. Every one of the people sitting in this room right now that are listening to us talk about this, since the beginning, it's been unbelievable how just supported I've felt. And even in moments that I was down, I always had somebody to turn to, even if it was just making a video and being honest that I was, upset or having a hard time. People always were there for me. And it's been incredible to get to not only meet my community, but really see like the growth in my own family, even with stuff that comes up and how, we approach different situations or talk to each other about things going on. But a huge motivator too is just consistently following what I'm passionate about. I don't think I would be where I'm sitting if I didn't just always make the choice that would bring me happiness in the long run. When I was in engineering, I chose that because that's what made me happy. I picked the job that made me really happy. And then when I got the opportunity to see something that I thought would make me grow and develop more, I picked that choice. And it wasn't scary to, abandon the life that I thought I was going to be living to pursue something different, because at the end of the day, if you're happy, that's all that really matters.
This thing with you on TikTok, I mean, Anna, let's face it, it's really big. I mean, truly big. So what do you think that you've learned in the past couple of years that's helped you create that community? I mean, you've got, you can see in the chats as we're doing this, I can just the support that you have from this community who love you. I mean, like, so.
And I love them too. They're my favorite.
Explain what you've learned or talk about it a little.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's funny because from the beginning of TikTok, I've always been like, oh, these are my friends. This is people who are seeing a side of my life. Like what I show on social media is what I would tell my friends in real life, or what I would talk about to people that I was much past acquaintances with. So it's interesting because I've always kind of just had the mentality that like, even when I get to meet my friends that are from social media in public, I'm like, oh, somebody who like, they know what kind of life I live. They know what I'm already wearing today. Like they know what the mood that I'm in. They know what I ordered at Starbucks. Like, it's so funny because I just, from the beginning of starting social media, always just kept the mentality of, it was never like, I wanted my social media to be an extension of me. I didn't want it to be a show. I didn't want it to be, a production of my life. I wanted it to be just an extension of like who I really am as a person. And I feel like I've never been afraid to show who I am or things that interest me. Or, I mean, if you scroll on my page, I do things from riding unicycles to ripping apples in half to going to Starbucks to going and shopping. Like there's no in between for what my content has to offer. And I think that it's attracted a community of people who have the same mindset, who don't know what they like, but they kind of like everything. And they all just want to be a part of that adventure. And so
well, I think that's part of what, just that fuels you, just because you are so you're so authentic.
It's actually funny looking back. So when I first was starting on social media, TikTok was actually the app that I was like, oh, nobody's going to find this one. This is the one that's going to stay secret. This is the one that I'm going to be weird on. I'm not going to wear makeup on it. I'm just going to do whatever I feel like in the moment. And like my Instagram, I always kind of tried to keep like curated and pretty and like a little aesthetic. And then my YouTube, I was like, okay, I'm going to do vlogs. I'm going to tell people my beauty, my skincare, even though nobody asked. I was like, this is what I'm doing. But it's interesting to me that my TikTok, which was the app that I was least embarrassed about, most authentic on, most like just carefree and excited to share and just really showed myself instead of trying to portray myself as something, was the app that people ended up being attracted to. And I honestly am so happy that people wanted to see me instead of me trying to portray myself as something that I'm not. And I think that speaks a lot to true beauty, is that like you aren't just, like you can put on a front and you can think that the most important thing about you is how you look, or things like that, but there's so much deeper things that matter more. And it really, I'm gonna start tearing up, but like it really does make me feel good inside that like people accept me for being the person that I most see myself as, and that I get to share that with people now, and that we get to enjoy these moments together.
Were you the popular one in high school? Were you like, like what were you like then?
Um, I've made this joke before with a couple of my friends that I always thought that the best way to make friends was to um, have a lot of really cool skills. Okay. Now, my definition of cool skills is that I learned how to ride the unicycle. As you can imagine, that made me extremely popular. I was top of the line entertainment in high school. But it's funny because I always saw that like having something to share with people or show off, or like, look how cool this is, look what I can do, this is this. Turns out that's not how that works in the long run. That doesn't make you cool, which I learned very late in life. But it's funny because I really wasn't popular in high school. I wasn't not known. I feel like my school was small enough that everybody knew everybody, but I never really felt like I fit in. It wasn't until I got to college and I was presented. It's actually funny. My guy friends in engineering were the people that I felt like I fit in most with, because they had a little bit more of like the carefree mindset, and me being weird wasn't like, oh, she's so weird. Me being weird was like, oh, she's got good energy. We're going to keep this one around. So it had like a totally different twist when I got to college. But in high school, I definitely struggled, I think, with having people that made me feel like I belonged as much. I always kind of felt like an outsider. Even if I was a part of friend groups, I was like on the outskirts of the friend group.
You did?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, even things that I had interests in that weren't the same, like doing I was doing the photo shoots and things like that with my mom. I know I share those on TikTok sometimes, so you guys have seen like me go out with my mom and take these like super elaborate photos in like random locations. But I was doing that back in high school. I was making my videos. I always was the kid that was putting in like 100% effort on I was the kid that would say like, didn't we have homework due that we were supposed to turn in? I was that kid. So like, if you thought that I was popular, I wasn't. But it's funny because I'll look back at those things and, they ended up paying off in the long run. It's okay. Like, I think I was better off to be myself than try to like hide that personality and always try to like push it down, because now as you grow up and you become more confident, and I've adulted over the years, it's made me just feel a lot more comfortable in who I've become.
I think a lot of times growing up and as a young person, feeling like an outsider, I mean, that's difficult, and it's difficult, so that you speaking to individuals about, I mean, look, everybody's just, I don't want to be an outsider and I want to be, but just the fact that you kind of embraced that.
I want to say too, it's interesting because the one thing is like, I always had like the jump around friends. Like I had like a really good friends for these 2 years, and then one for this 1 year, and then one for this 2 years. It never was like this long-term, like best friend since childhood. But then I get to college, where you have, not only you meet so many more people than what you would meet in high school. At least for my high school, I grew up in a town of 7,000 people. So our high school was not the largest thing. And it's interesting to look back, and like my best friends that I've met in my life, people that I'm closest with, are all from college, or actually people I've met through social media. I mean, some of the people that I met just from TikTok, people that I just coincidentally, we became mutuals, like we were following each other back, and then we start talking, and they become some of the closest people, and people that I really look up to, and people that I'm so happy that I had the chance to meet through, growing on TikTok, through creating a community and being a content creator. it's amazing because I always worried that like, oh, all these, all these girls have all these friends and like I don't feel like I have like a big group or I have all these people, but you'd be surprised how valuable it is to have just one. I mean, my best friend, I think she's here now, but like my best friend Katie is like the one person that I could always rely on to be there for me. And like looking back now, we were random suite mates, so we shared a bathroom in college. And it's amazing to have somebody that throughout every aspect of my life leading up to this point, from when I was 18 till now, which is a pretty long time, she's always been there without fail. And like that's the friendship that you want. Like you don't need to be popular, you don't need to have the big group, you don't need to be invited to all the parties, because in those moments that you might not get invited to those, spend the time, like do something for yourself, pick up a new hobby, pick up a new thing to do, grow in another way, and you'd be surprised how much that pays off in the long run too.
Success comes from following your truth and being yourself. It really does. That again, that's one of the messages with True Beauty Discovery that we're all about. It's about, it's about celebrating and pursuing individualism. And you can't, so that if you're trying to like follow some, like a lemming, follow somebody, and it's not the path. The path is to just sort of express yourself. And I think I love that, with you and with your TikTok and with the stuff you create, your content, that's the message that you send to everyone. If you could sit down right now and talk to your younger self, right? Maybe your younger, more insecure self, or maybe, the self that was doubtful, what would you say to that person, that little you?
I think the most important thing that I looked back and thought was the end of the world was the things that happen right now in your life are so temporary. There's so many things that you are going to look back on and think were the biggest deal that didn't mean all that much. So I was always somebody that worried about every little decision that I made, every little mistake, everything that I said. I think it's so important to just accept that like who you are is who you are, and you're going to live your best possible life if you just are yourself. And I wish that I stopped caring what people think longer ago. Like I wish that I didn't feel the need to wear makeup, didn't feel the need to, look a certain way or dress a certain way, or what brand were my clothes or what were this, because looking back, all those things were so minuscule in the grand scheme of the way that my life has worked out so far. And I think if I would have taken less time to worry about those things, I would have been happier earlier in life, and it would have paid off in the long run. And another thing is that I look at that now as, I'm 23, so I look back on those years of being, 16, 17, 18 and overly caring what everybody perceived me as. And now in some sense, like a lot of what I do on TikTok even is I want to be the person that like you can go to with your secrets, the person that you can feel safe with. I want to be the community that you're a part of that makes you feel like you don't have to worry what people think of you. I want to be inclusive. I want people to feel like they're a part of a family, because in a lot of senses, my younger self didn't have that. And I want to be that for other people now.
So I'm a little bit curious here because your platform is really big. So do you feel a sense of responsibility?
Maybe 8 months ago, no. I've been like, oh, I don't have any responsibility. And obviously my community was not the size that it is now 8 months ago, but I would have thought like, why does anybody care what I have to say? Or it's not my responsibility to talk about anything. I don't need to be like, my only job is making content. And now I've seen from messages that I get, people that I've met, it's incredible to me how many people turn to social media as not only like a guiding light, but a way to either get insight or to feel a certain way. And now I feel the responsibility of being the place where people feel safe. Like I was just saying, like the place that people can come to and feel like they're a part of something. I think the title influencer is like I have never really liked the title influencer because I think that there's a lot of like association with it. People see different ways. I've always said like, oh, I'm a content creator because I make videos, I make content, I'm entertained, like I make entertainment for you to enjoy. But from an influencer perspective, I see it that like our job is not to tell people how to think or, how to act or the way they should be, but it's to help influence, help encourage people, or to give insight into ways that we've done it and where they can learn from us, where they can follow with us, where they can be a part of what we're doing. Or if they disagree with us, they should be able to say that and feel like they're in an open, inclusive space. And that's always been my goal. I think responsibility is huge, especially with having a lot of my community as women. And I think it's my responsibility to remind them how freaking awesome they are, how amazing they are. And for my men that are in my community, it's my job to remind you that you are also awesome and you are amazing and that I love having you here.
Let's face it, social media can be kind of mean. Like,
Oh my God, yes.
there can be a lot of sort of kind of haters out there and kind of nasty things. So for me, it's really kind of extraordinary that what you've done is taken your platform as a platform for support and for kind of inclusion. What's next for you?
I can't spill all the tea of like what's next, but I can tell you I am so excited for this year and just to like keep waking up and making great content and sharing a little piece of my life with everybody every day. I mean, I definitely am working on, making longer form content, whether that's through YouTube, for Instagram, things like that. I'm looking forward in the future. I have some exciting partnerships coming up that I'm really excited to share with everybody. And, I'm really just, my everyday life is, it'd be funny. I wish that somebody could be a fly on the wall because you'd laugh at like, I wake up and the first thing I'm like, okay, let's make a video. And then everybody'd be like, what? And I'm like, oh, I can do my makeup. I can get ready. I can show you me in the shower. I could do this. I could do this. So it's funny because my everyday, I just wake up so excited to do something and to make something and to share it.
How do you stay positive in a world where it seems so many women always compare themselves?
I think that starts with just looking personally at yourself in your life. I've always seen that somebody else's success and somebody else's beauty or things that they really, think of the right word for it, but things that they really excel in is never hindering your own potential. Like we are all individuals on a path to trying to be our most successful selves. So if you spend your time worrying that like, oh my gosh, she's doing so well, you're really taking away from the energy that you should be putting into yourself and saying, I can do so well when I put my mind to this, when I put in this effort. So it does fall easy. I'm not going to pretend like I'm perfect. I definitely get into modes where I'm like, oh my gosh, she looks so nice. I need to work out more. I need to do this differently, or I need to be working harder. She seems to be getting so much more done than me. But whenever you start to get in that mentality, I just have to wind myself back and remember that like somebody else's success is never hindering mine, and somebody else's doing well or being really beautiful doesn't mean that I'm not, doesn't mean that I can't do that, doesn't mean that I won't get to somewhere that is my path and my projection to being my best possible self. So just remember that even if somebody's path also looks like it's going to be what you want to have, you'd be surprised if you allow yourself the opportunity to develop in your own world. You would be so much more successful if you focus on what your strengths are instead of trying to copy or mimic what somebody else's strengths are too.
Did you ever experience sexism as a STEM major in college? If you did, how did you deal with the sexism?
I think like any woman in engineering, you definitely get the comments. You get a couple here and there of people who, in a way, it's actually interesting because it's never as forward as you think it would be. It's always something very subtle. Things like, oh, you only got the job because you're a woman, or oh, you only got this because you did this, or you cried and that's what made your grade go up. Things like that. And luckily for my university, Western was so inclusive, so involved, always made me feel welcome. And the students that go there, I mean, I can't compare to any other university because I haven't experienced that. But for Western, for every time I would have even one man or one woman even say something that wasn't nice or, meant in a derogatory way or wasn't meant to be kind, there was 15 or 20 people that were standing behind me to cheer me up or to tell them that they shouldn't have said that or to have my back or to tell me that they were proud of me. So it's really important that, throughout your life, you're always gonna, even if, whether it's in engineering, whether it's in any major across the board. I know like there's even like moments in film that there isn't something even between the men and women. And it's always important that no matter what throughout your life, you surround yourself with people who are being supportive, because you're never gonna be able to tell people to stop. And my mom always told me this when I was growing up was, especially with social media now, like this is maybe going into a different conversation, but it's hard to escape negativity in social media. And there's always going to be people who don't like something or want to say something not nice. And my number one thing is always to be nice back. Don't ever let them bring your attitude down, because at the end of the day, they could be just having a hard day. And I know that I can't guarantee that they are, but I would rather treat them with kindness and be like, sure, take it out on me and be mad at me, because I'd rather you take it out on me because I know that I can handle it than take it out on somebody who wouldn't be able to handle this. So I never mind that stuff as much, but you can't spend all of your energy trying, this is maybe a rough analogy, but this is what my mom always says, like, you can't spend all of your time turning around and trying to stop somebody from catching up to you. You always have to just remember to keep swimming faster. So if somebody is swimming in the ocean after you and is trying to bring you down, you just have to swim faster.
How do you balance so many of your passions? I got my degree and I love what I studied, but I also have so many other areas I'd like to explore. As a 23-year-old, how do I balance my passions while making money, having a stable living, etc.?
Sometimes things will flow in and out of consistency in my life, and that's totally okay. I think that we can have a million passions. We can also put things down for several months at a time and come back to those things. Like through college, I didn't ride the unicycle as much as I liked it. But now that I can, I ride the unicycle more again. And I like to go on bike rides and I like to go around my neighborhood, and you can imagine the looks that I get, but it's totally worth it because I'm enjoying myself. And so I think something important is I've always been a very good planner. I always make time for things like that, whether it's 11 to 12 at night or it's, 7 to 8 o'clock in the morning. If you want to prioritize growing and developing that passion, you got to make time for it. In college, the best thing that I did was I always got my homework done during the week. I never got homework done on the weekends. I always was already done by the time we hit Friday at 2 o'clock, because I wanted my weekends to be available. I wanted to be able to see my friends. I wanted to have a social life. If I wanted to go shopping, I wanted to go shopping. If I wanted to do arts and crafts, I wanted to have a whole day to just do arts and crafts. So my best advice is really practice time management. It'll take a while to get into a rhythm that you're comfortable with and that you feel good with. I'm a huge planner girl. I'm a lists girl. Some people don't like that as much, but if that's what helps you check off the list and get things done, that's what I highly recommend. My weekends were always my go-to for having my social life and having my free time.
How do you not beat yourself up so much when, say you lose your creative streak for a second? Like, how do you continue to remain okay with that?
The terminology I think a lot of people hear for especially social media is that you experience burnout. You've been going full capacity for such a long time, creating stuff, that you now reach this point where you are just tired. Now, I am somebody who doesn't like to act tired. So when I think I'm tired, or if I'm feeling like I'm losing, a little bit of my edge, losing a little bit of my creativity, I end up making more content because I'm like, something's got to click. Like I'm going to make something and something's going to come up. And funny enough, that's how my Starby series came too, because I was like, okay, I'm starting to feel like, it was mid-pandemic. I was not in like my best headspace. I was having summer classes. I was feeling overwhelmed. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to film myself going to get my favorite drink and I'm going to boost my own energy. And somehow that became a whole series of me doing, I see it come another day, another Starbucks. It became a whole series of me going and trying Starbucks drinks and now that is getting my Starbucks drink is my like mental break for the day. That's like how I boost myself back up. Some people really like taking time off, like meditating, or I journal every single day, every single night. I write down what I did that day, what happened, any like big milestones. That really helps me get like back in a calmed headspace. But also creating content is like in my most intense moments of burnout, I'm just like extra pouring out ideas because I feel like that kind of gets me back in a groove of being like, okay, now I have 15 that I can grow on and I'm going to keep working with those.
Have you ever felt lost or unsure about what you wanted to pursue? I'm finishing up my undergrad and I really have no idea where to go next.
Yeah, I would say that I was probably in the same headspace as you when I was finishing my undergrad. Especially with so I've been working an internship at the same company for all 3 years. My sophomore, junior, senior year had worked worked at the same company. And it almost felt like that was like the thing that I should be doing. I was like, I've put in this work, I've made these connections, I have all of this foundation and network that I've built through this company. I've made friends with people all across all of the branches. But you have to listen to your gut a little bit. If you're feeling, I think there's a big difference between fear and like nervousness and like, oh my gosh, I'm nervous because this is a huge change in my life. And then there's like, in your gut, something's not sitting right. There's a huge difference between those two feelings. And that might take a lot of just like laying a night in your bed thinking about it. But I think that my moment was when I felt like I took a gamble. I didn't know if I was going to like living in LA. I didn't know if I was going to like leaving Michigan. I'd lived there my whole life practically. But in the moment that I got into grad school and like something just clicked, I was like, this is it. That's it. Like I knew that I was now on the right path again. Like you will feel that moment, whether it's you get the job that you dreamed of having, whether it's you get the job you didn't think you enjoy and you walk in your first day and your desk is like exactly what you wanted it to look like, you'll know, like it'll click for you and you'll feel so much more comfortable in your space.
How do you keep creative? Like, because I know, I have a feeling I'm speaking for all of us, being in quarantine has been incredibly difficult for all of us. So what do you do to feed yourself, to source yourself so that, you can, because it's hard.
Writing is a big thing. And this could be cheesy. I'm an extrovert, as you could imagine. I love talking to people. I'm like the person who like talks to the guy, like the pump across from me at the gas station. I'm like making friends with every person in every place I go. Like if we're waiting in line at the grocery store, I'm starting a conversation with you. You have no choice. So in moments like this, when I'm locked up at my house alone, just sitting here, I struggle so much not having that social aspect because that's where a lot of my inspiration comes from. And anytime I go in public now, I will pick apart every conversation, every experience I had for the content. Like this was a joke that I told you today, is that I went to the surf shop to find a new wetsuit and I had a very funny exchange with the guy at the store, immediately came home and was like, oh, that's content. Like, and it's funny, but I think a huge thing for creativity is having really good conversations with who you can talk to. My family sits every night after dinner for an hour after we finish dinner. And we always have eaten our meals sitting all together, especially like the last meal of the day is dinner. So we'll sit for an hour though and just visit about anything. Like we shared last night our favorite childhood experiences, or we'll sit and we'll talk about like our favorite vacation we've gone on as a family. And moments like that will pick up memories that will kind of inspire other ideas. Like if you can remember a funny story from when your sister did something, okay, now maybe that concept could be used in a everyday life scenario, and that could be the joke that you tell. Like it's interesting because I pull a lot of my inspiration from conversation. So I have to have conversation. And during quarantine, I've gotten so much closer with my family, gotten so much better about talking with people, checking on so many friends, just trying to keep myself sane in a way, but also just present and checked in with all the people that I'm around. And picking up hobbies like going to Michael's and picking up a new hobby and sitting at home and working on that for 2 weeks. That will get you back in the creative.
Okay, what was the latest hobby?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I don't know what it's called, but you know where you take the hammer and you hit the little stamp and you can make jewelry that has words on it, like you imprint into the metal.
Oh, that sounds really cool, but I don't know.
Oh my gosh. I've been making myself bracelets for the last like month. And now my whole bathroom is just like filled with like cheesy coated bracelets that I've made.
You were always giving us such great advice, but the real question is, who do you go to for advice?
My mom and my older sister are probably my first two. It also like kind of depends on scenario also. With anything in life, it's always mom and sister, I would say. Or Katie, the gal that I mentioned earlier, my best friend. She's a very good listener. So like she's who I go to when I just need to like talk about something. Mom and sister are like go-to advice. And then I've made a couple like friends through social media who like have been really there for me whenever it's like, what do you think about this post? Or did I word this correctly? Or, what are your thoughts on here? Or do you like this idea? Or do you think that this is funny? Because they kind of get the trends and like things that are popular in the app. So I'll turn to them, but I would say mom, sister, and Brandon's always been there too. Like he's really good. He's similar to Katie in the sense of like, he's good support. Like he will listen to me talk all day long and he might not know what to say, but he'll listen. And I like to talk. So that's really helpful too.
Do you ever regret things?
No. Like in all honesty, I don't know that I do, just because if I didn't make any of the choices leading up to this point, I don't know that I would be here. Like with every mistake that you make or what you might see as a mistake, it's a learning opportunity for you to be better in the future, or it's a chance for you to know how to handle it differently. I think like my only regret would be like that but I also can't say that I would have been able to, like, I wish I was more confident earlier on in life. I wish like I liked things about myself and didn't like put myself through like the headache of having to worry like what I look like or whether or not I need to wear makeup, or if it's too much makeup, if it's not enough makeup, or what does this person think of me. I think I spent a lot of time, worrying about that. And I've gotten really good from those experiences of learning how much I don't need to worry, that I'm not doing that now. So I can't really say that I regret doing that because it taught me what I know now. And so I don't think Like if you live your life with regret, you're constantly living in the past instead of looking toward the future and like what's possible for you.
How do you boost your confidence?
So we all know like the little slow-mo walk on TikTok, that's the go-to. You like set up your phone, you set it to 0.3 times X speed, and you walk in front of your camera in a really cute outfit. That's always a go-to. But if we don't have a phone available, you're on the runway. That's what I think of. Sometimes like just physical activity makes me feel confident again, like getting out and moving. Sometimes if I like am sitting still for too long, like I kind of like get in my head about a lot of things. If I'm just like sitting playing on my phone for too long, if I'm in the same space for too long, I think a lot of my confidence comes from being like excitable, and that like my extrovert makes me seem much more confident than I am. But also just telling yourself that you are enough and like really manifesting that energy every morning. Like you are a bad bleep. There's no doubt about it. So like own that you are who you're supposed to be and that there's never going to be another one of you. So make the choices, do what you want, live your life to its fullest. That's like my only confidence thing. I think confidence comes with age too. Like people won't tell you that, but it does. Like as I got older, I got more confident. It's just because I became more comfortable.